What was your call sign? The words sliced through the morning air like a knife. Captain Thorne stood beside the battered pickup truck, his polished boots gleaming in the sun, his hand resting deliberately on his sidearm. His voice carried the sharp edge of a man drunk on authority. The elderly driver hadn't moved. His weathered hand stayed calm on the steering wheel, his gaze locked on something distant, something the young captain could never see. Behind them, a line of cars stretched back past the intersection. Engines idled. Cell phones rose like a forest of glass and metal. Everyone was watching. Thorne leaned into the open window, his lips curling into a sneer. Or did you just scrub pots in some forgotten galley? The old man slowly turned his head. When he spoke, his voice was quiet as winter snow. Hammer 6. Thorne laughed. But somewhere in the crowd, a young sailor felt his grandfather's ghost tap his shoulder. And 3 miles inland, an Admiral's coffee cup shattered on the floor. Naval Station Norfolk on a Tuesday morning was a symphony of controlled chaos. The largest naval base in the world hummed with the business of empire. Destroyers and aircraft carriers lined the harbor like sleeping giants. Sailors in crisp whites moved with purpose. Contractors with hard hats carried clipboards. Families with visitor passes clutched maps. Everything had its place. Everything followed the rules. Everything flowed through the main gate in an orderly procession, until it didn't. Randall Stone's truck was a relic from another era. A 1976 Ford, faded red paint, dusty from 100 country roads. It looked like something pulled from a barn in rural Virginia, which is exactly what it was. The engine rumbled with a patient, untroubled sound. Inside, Randall sat with the stillness of a man who had learned long ago that movement without purpose was wasted energy. He was 83 years old. His face was a landscape of deep lines and sun-weathered skin. His flannel shirt was clean but worn. His hands, gnarled from decades of work, rested easy on the cracked leather steering wheel. Captain Marcus Thorne saw none of the man. He saw only the disruption. He was 32 years old, fit as a marathon runner, sharp as a fresh-pressed uniform. He had graduated top of his class at the Naval Academy. He ran this gate with precision and pride. Rules were rules. Protocol was sacred. And this old pickup truck with no appointment, no pass, and no explanation was an insult to everything he stood for. "Step out of the vehicle," Thorne commanded. His 2 junior guards flanked him, nervous and uncertain. The captain, however, radiated righteous confidence. Driver's license, base credentials, now. His tone left no room for discussion. One hand drifted to his sidearm, casual and theatrical all at once. The line of cars behind Randall's truck had grown long, a shimmering snake of metal and frustration stretching back toward the civilian world. People began stepping out of their vehicles. This was better than morning radio. Captain Thorne felt their eyes on him and stood taller. He would make this a lesson. He would show them all what happened when you disrespected naval authority. Randall didn't respond. He simply looked through the windshield at the gray hulls in the distance. Ships he recognized from another lifetime. His silence was not defiance. It was something else entirely. Something the young captain mistook for confusion or stubbornness. "This is a restricted federal installation," Thorne snapped, leaning closer. His face was inches from the window now. "You don't just roll up here like it's a public park. Your truck isn't registered in our system. You have no visitor pass. You have no active duty credentials on file. So I'll ask one more time. Who are you? What kind of game are you playing, old man?" The crowd was growing. Cell phones were recording. Junior sailors whispered to each other. Civilian contractors shook their heads. Family with 2 young children watched wide-eyed from their minivan. Captain Thorne was the center of attention, and he fed on it like fuel. Randall Stone finally moved. Slowly, he reached toward the glove compartment. The motion was deliberate, unhurried. He pulled out an old leather wallet held together with a rubber band. It was cracked and faded, the kind of thing most people would have thrown away decades ago. From inside, he extracted a single card, military identification, but old. So old the lamination was peeling. The photograph showed a young man with Randall's eyes, but none of the years. Thorne snatched it from his hand. "What is this?" He held it up like evidence of a crime. "This thing expired 40 years ago. This is a joke." His subordinates shifted uncomfortably. Something about this felt wrong. Then Thorne noticed the jacket draped over the passenger seat. Old brown leather, worn smooth. On the sleeve was a patch, simple, stark, a black shield with a single silver hammer pointing down. No words, no unit numbers, nothing else. "And what's this supposed to be?" Thorne asked, his voice dripping with mockery. "Some kind of biker club?" You and your buddies ride around on weekends playing dress-up? A few people in the crowd laughed nervously. The disrespect hung in the air like smoke. Randall's eyes drifted to the patch. For a moment, the noise of the checkpoint faded. The humid Virginia air thinned and turned cold. The morning sun dimmed to the green glow of night vision. He wasn't sitting in his truck anymore. He was strapped into the jump seat of a Black Hawk helicopter, the rotor wash screaming in his ears, the frame vibrating so hard his teeth rattled. Below him, the mountains of a country whose name was still classified rushed past in jagged black silhouettes. 30 seconds out, Hammer 6. Ground team is pinned down. They need you. The voice in his headset was calm, practiced, the voice of a pilot who had seen hell more times than he could count. Randall's hands, young and strong, gripped the cold steel of an M240 machine gun. The hammer patch on his sleeve was brand new then, crisp, earned in blood 3 months earlier during a mission that never officially happened. The helicopter banked hard. Tracer rounds lit up the night like angry fireflies. The ground team was surrounded, 7 men against an entire enemy company. They had been on a reconnaissance mission deep behind lines, a mission so secret it didn't have a name, only a number. Operation Nightingale. When things went bad, when the ambush closed in, when the radio calls for help grew desperate, they didn't send a battalion. They sent Randall Stone. He remembered the moment the Black Hawk door gunner looked at him and said, "You sure about this, Hammer?" Randall didn't answer. He just checked his rifle one last time and jumped into the darkness. Alone. The only backup those 7 men would get. He landed hard in a dried riverbed. Rocks cut through his gloves. Gunfire erupted from 3 sides. He moved through the night like a ghost, flanking, firing, reloading, moving again. The enemy thought they were fighting a platoon. It was just one man. One man who refused to let his brothers die. 72 hours later, when reinforcements finally arrived, they found Randall Stone at Anna Pass. He had built a fortress from mud, rocks, and the weapons of fallen enemies. He was down to his last magazine. His hands were torn and bleeding. His uniform was shredded, but he was standing, and the 7 men were alive. The battalion commander who reached him first didn't speak for a full minute. He just stared. Then he radioed back to headquarters. "We found him. Hammer 6 is still standing. Recommend immediate extraction and the highest honors." The response was swift and final. Extraction approved. Honors denied. This mission never happened. These men were never here. "Sir?" The voice pulled Randall back to the present. One of the junior guards was speaking, his tone apologetic and uncertain. "Sir, are you okay?" Randall blinked. The ghost of rotor wash faded. He was back at the gate, back in his truck. Captain Thorne was tapping his finger impatiently on the roof of the Ford. "That's it," Thorne announced loudly, playing to the crowd. "This man is clearly disoriented. He's a danger, to himself and to this base." He turned to his guards. "Get him out of the vehicle. Cuffs. We'll take him to medical for evaluation." But not everyone was laughing. Petty Officer Second Class Dale Miller stood by his car, his stomach twisting into knots. He was 24 years old, a fire controlman with a passion for naval history. His grandfather had been a master chief who served in Vietnam, a quiet man who told stories late at night about other quiet men who did impossible things, men who never got medals, men whose names were never spoken aloud. And that patch, that simple black shield with the silver hammer. Miller had seen it once before, in a photograph hidden in his grandfather's desk, a photograph his grandfather made him swear never to show anyone. Miller's hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. He didn't call base security. He didn't call the duty officer. He scrolled to a contact he had been given years ago with strict instructions. Only use this for something that matters. Command Master Chief Peterson, his grandfather's old friend, the man who had the Admiral's direct line. The phone rang twice. A gruff voice answered. "Peterson. Master Chief, it's Petty Officer Miller, Dale Miller's grandson." "Miller, what is it?" "I'm in a briefing." "Master Chief, you need to get to the main gate right now. Captain Thorne is about to arrest an old man. The guy's name is Randall Stone." Miller took a breath. "And he has a black shield patch, silver hammer." "Sir, I think he's one of them." The silence on the other end of the line was louder than any shout. Miller heard a chair scraping back violently. He heard the Master Chief's voice, distant, barking orders to someone else. Then Peterson was back on the line, his voice tight as a steel cable. "Do not let them touch him. I'm coming." The call ended. Inside the flag building, half a mile away, Command Master Chief Nathan Peterson burst into Admiral Richard Vance's office without knocking. The Admiral looked up from his desk, his eyes narrowing with the kind of anger reserved for breaches of protocol. "Master Chief, this had better be worth the interruption." "Sir," Peterson said, his voice vibrating with controlled urgency, "Captain Thorne is detaining a man at the main gate, an elderly civilian. The man's name is Randall Stone." Vance's expression didn't change, "And this requires my personal attention because, sir, the man is wearing a patch, black shield, silver hammer pointing down." The pen in Admiral Vance's hand stopped moving. He looked up slowly, his face going pale. The air in the office shifted, became heavy, dangerous. "Say that again. Silver hammer, sir." "Thorne is calling him delusional. He's about to place him in restraints." Admiral Vance stood so fast his chair flew backward and crashed into the credenza. "Get me a car. Get me the Marine Honor Guard. Move now." He grabbed his cover and strode toward the door, his voice shaking the walls. "You tell Thorne if he touches that man, I will personally end his career before lunch. Do you understand me?" "Yes, sir," Peterson said, already running. Back at the gate, Captain Thorne was savoring his victory. The guards were approaching Randall's truck door, handcuffs ready. "All right, sir, let's make this easy. Just step out of the truck." Thorne crossed his arms, a smug smile on his face. "In my Navy, everyone has a call sign." "So what was yours, old man? Or did you just shuffle papers somewhere safe?" For the first time, something shifted in Randall Stone's expression. Not anger, something deeper. Weariness. The kind that comes from carrying weight no one else can see. He let out a long, slow breath. Then he spoke, his voice quiet but carrying a weight that cut through every other sound. "Hammer 6. Thorne laughed. "Hammer 6. That's adorable. Sounds like a comic book." He turned to his guards. "Get him out. Now." But before anyone could move, the sound of screaming tires shattered the moment. 3 black sedans, lights flashing, roared toward them from inside the base. They skidded to a halt just feet away, blocking the entire road. Doors flew open. A full squad of Marines in dress blues poured out, their movements precise and menacing. They formed a line, white-gloved hands on ceremonial rifles, creating a barrier between the crowd and Randall's truck. From the lead car, Admiral Richard Vance emerged. His face was a mask of controlled fury. He walked through the line of Marines, his gaze locked not on Thorne, but on the old man in the truck. Master Chief Peterson followed 2 steps behind. The entire checkpoint went silent. Even the seagulls seemed to stop crying. Captain Thorne's smile evaporated. He snapped to attention, his mind racing, unable to process what was happening. Admiral Vance walked directly to the driver's side door of the Ford pickup. He stood there for a long moment, composing himself. Then he did something that would be talked about for years. The 2-star Admiral, commander of the base and its carrier strike groups, drew himself up to his full height and executed the sharpest, most perfect salute of his entire career. "Mr. Stone," Vance said, his voice ringing clear and strong, "on behalf of the United States Navy, I offer my deepest and most sincere apology for the unacceptable treatment you have received today. I am Admiral Vance, base commander. It is an honor, sir. A true and humbling honor." Randall Stone simply nodded. He accepted the salute with the same quiet grace he had shown all morning. The crowd erupted in confused whispers. Captain Thorne looked like he had been struck by lightning. "Admiral," he stammered, taking a hesitant step forward. "I don't understand. This man has no valid credentials." "He has no." Vance turned his head slowly. The look in his eyes could have frozen the Atlantic Ocean. "Captain, your understanding is not required. What is required is your immediate silence." The Admiral turned to face the crowd. His voice rose, taking on the commanding tone of a man used to addressing thousands. "Everyone here seems confused. You see an old man in a beat-up truck. You see a faded patch on an old jacket. Your captain saw a security risk. Let me tell you what I see." He gestured toward Randall. "I see the man history can never write about. I see the sole survivor of Operation Nightingale, a mission so classified that all 7 other members of his team were listed as training accidents. I see the man who held Anna Pass for 72 hours alone against an entire enemy battalion. When reinforcements finally reached him, they didn't find a man. They found a fortress. The murmurs died completely. Cell phones were no longer just recording gossip. They were documenting living history. This man," Vance continued, his voice thick with emotion, "wears no medals because the actions that earned them can never be acknowledged. He asks for nothing. He seeks no recognition. The unit he served with was the precursor to the teams that hunt our worst enemies today. They had no name, just a commander. His call sign was Hammer 6. Vance turned his furious gaze to Captain Thorne, who now looked physically ill. You demanded his call sign, Captain. You do not have the clearance or the honor to even speak that name aloud. You mocked the patch on his jacket. Men have received the Medal of Honor just trying to keep up with the man who wears that patch. The shaming was complete and brutal. Thorne's authority was vaporized. He stood stripped bare before his subordinates and the entire base. You are hereby relieved of your command, effective immediately, Vance said coldly. Master Chief Peterson will escort you to my office. Your career is under review. As Peterson stepped forward, Randall Stone opened his truck door and slowly climbed out. He walked over to the Admiral and gently placed a hand on his arm. Admiral, he said calmly, he's a young captain, full of fire, eager to do his job. We were all like that once. He looked at the trembling Thorne. He just needs to learn to see the person, not the uniform. Don't ruin his career. Teach him. That's what leaders do. The fallout was swift. Captain Thorne was formally reprimanded and reassigned to a logistics desk in a remote office park. But at Randall Stone's quiet insistence, Admiral Vance did something more. He created a new training program for all command and security personnel. It was called the Hammer 6 Initiative. Its mission was simple: teach the new generation to recognize the quiet heroes who walk among them, to see beyond the uniform or the lack of one, to understand that respect is not given based on appearance, but earned through character. The video of the confrontation went viral within the military community. A cautionary tale passed from one officer to another. Several weeks later, Lieutenant Thorne, his captain's insignia now gone, sat alone at a small off-base diner. He was stirring a cup of black coffee when the door opened. Randall Stone walked in. Thorne wanted to disappear, but Randall simply took the stool beside him and ordered coffee. They sat in silence. Finally, Thorne cleared his throat. Sir, I never properly apologized. What I did was inexcusable. I am truly sorry. Randall took a slow sip. You were doing your job, son. You were just looking through a very small window. He smiled gently. The trick is to make that window bigger every day. He flagged the waitress. I'll take his check too. He placed a few worn bills on the counter, gave Thorne a pat on the shoulder, and walked out. It was a small gesture, but it taught a lesson no classroom ever could. If Randall Stone's story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to BR Veteran Stories for more tales of courage, sacrifice, and the quiet heroes who never ask for recognition but deserve our deepest respect.